As the sun rose over the Valley of the Kings, priests made an extraordinary discovery. On the walls of the newly constructed temple, the pharaoh's figure lacked the traditional false masculine beard, instead displaying delicate, feminine features. This was Hatshepsut, the woman who dared to become pharaoh of the most powerful empire of her time. In ancient Egypt, where tradition and religious customs were deeply ingrained in society, Hatshepsut's ascension to power was nothing short of revolutionary. Born into the royal family around 1507 BCE as the daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose I, she was originally destined for the traditional role of great royal wife. However, fate had grander plans for this remarkable woman. Following her marriage to her half-brother Thutmose II and his subsequent death, Hatshepsut found herself in a position of unprecedented opportunity. With the heir to the throne, Thutmose III, merely a child, she initially served as regent. But Hatshepsut's ambitions extended far beyond this temporary role. In a bold and unprecedented move, she declared herself pharaoh, adopting not just the title but all the traditional regalia and symbols of pharaonic power. To legitimize her extraordinary position, Hatshepsut crafted an ingenious narrative that resonated with Egyptian religious beliefs. She claimed divine parentage, asserting that the god Ammonius-Ra himself had visited her mother in the form of Thutmose I. This divine conception story, combined with her political acumen and charismatic leadership, won her the crucial support of the powerful priesthood. During her 21-year reign, from approximately 1478 to 1458 BCE, Hatshepsut transformed Egypt through ambitious building projects and expansive trade initiatives. Unlike many of her predecessors and successors who focused on military conquests, she pursued a policy of peaceful prosperity. Her most famous achievement was the expedition to the land of Punt, believed to be in modern-day Somalia. This trading mission brought unprecedented wealth to Egypt, including exotic animals, precious woods, gold, and frankincense trees that were ceremonially replanted in the gardens of her mortuary temple. The architectural legacy of Hatshepsut's reign stands as a testament to her vision and power. Her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri remains one of the most spectacular monuments of ancient Egypt. The temple's innovative design, with its elegant terrace structure built into the limestone cliffs, represented a harmonious blend of architectural grandeur and natural landscape that would influence Egyptian architecture for generations. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of Hatshepsut's reign is how she chose to present herself. In official statuary and reliefs, she was often depicted wearing the traditional regalia of a male pharaoh, including the false beard. This was not an attempt to disguise her gender, but rather to associate herself with the established symbols of pharaonic power. In texts, she was referred to using masculine pronouns, yet there was no attempt to hide her identity as a woman. The end of Hatshepsut's reign remains shrouded in mystery. After her death, her successor Thutmose III ordered the removal of her name and image from many monuments. Modern archaeology suggests this may have been less an act of vengeance and more a political move to ensure the smooth succession of power. Recent studies of her mummy, identified in 2007, indicate she may have died from complications of a dental abscess, possibly related to bone cancer. Hatshepsut's reign was remarkable not only for its peaceful prosperity but for what it demonstrated about leadership in the ancient world. She proved that effective governance transcended gender, establishing a legacy that resonates through the millennia. Her story continues to captivate historians and inspire discussions about power, legitimacy, and the role of women in positions of authority. In the grand narrative of Egyptian history, Hatshepsut stands as a testament to the possibility of breaking with tradition while maintaining and even enhancing the greatness of an ancient civilization. The year is 1507 BCE along the banks of the mighty Nile River, where ancient Egypt stands at the zenith of its power during the New Kingdom period. The landscape is dominated by towering temples, their limestone facades gleaming in the scorching sun, while the life-giving waters of the Nile sustain one of history's most remarkable civilizations. This era marks an extraordinary time in Egyptian history, characterized by unprecedented wealth, architectural marvels, and far-reaching influence. The New Kingdom represents Egypt at its most magnificent, with territories stretching from the Euphrates River in Asia to the Fourth Cataract of the Nile in Nubia. Trade routes crisscross the known world, bringing gold, exotic woods, precious stones, and rare spices to the pharaoh's treasury. To the north, the powerful Hittite Empire watches with growing concern as Egyptian influence expands into their traditional spheres of control in Syria and the Levant. To the south, the sophisticated Kingdom of Nubia maintains an uneasy relationship with their powerful northern neighbor, alternating between trading partner and subjugated territory. The political landscape is as complex as it is dynamic, with alliances and rivalries shaping the destiny of nations. Yet within this grand tapestry of power and prosperity, An unprecedented change is brewing in the very heart of Egyptian society. The established order, maintained for thousands of years through strict religious and political traditions, is about to experience a transformation that few could have imagined. In the corridors of power, among the columned halls of Thebes, a revolution is taking shape, not through violence or upheaval, but through the quiet determination of one extraordinary individual. This is more than just another chapter in the long history of pharaonic succession. It is the beginning of a story that would challenge the very foundations of Egyptian kingship, a tale that demonstrates how individual determination can overcome even the most deeply entrenched traditions. The stage is set for a moment that would be remembered for millennia. The rise of a woman who would dare to claim not just the role of queen, but the divine mantle of Pharaoh itself. Against the backdrop of Egypt's golden age, as incense wafts through temple courtyards and priests chant their eternal hymns to the gods, a new kind of leader is about to emerge. The religious, political, and social foundations of one of history's greatest civilizations are about to be tested by a ruler who would prove that true power transcends the boundaries of gender and tradition. This is not merely a tale of ancient history. It is a timeless narrative about courage, innovation, and the capacity for change within even the most traditional societies. As we venture back through the millennia to this pivotal moment, we witness the dawn of an era that would challenge everything Egyptians thought they knew about power, divinity, and leadership. In the heart of this magnificent civilization, surrounded by monuments that still inspire awe today, one of history's most remarkable stories is about to unfold. The story of Hatshepsut, the woman who would become Pharaoh. The majestic temple of Karnak stands as a testament to ancient Egyptian grandeur, its colossal columns reaching toward the heavens like stone fingers of the gods themselves. In the early morning light, these massive pillars cast long shadows across the limestone courtyard, creating an intricate dance of light and darkness that seems to pulse with sacred energy. The air is thick with the sweet fragrance of burning incense, its tendrils of smoke weaving through the columns as priests, draped in pristine white linen, chant melodious hymns to Pharaoh, the king of gods. This is Karnak, the epicenter of Egyptian religious and political power, where the earthly and divine realms converge. The temple complex, already ancient by Hatshepsut's time, spreads across vast acres, its buildings connected by processional ways lined with sphinx statues, their enigmatic smiles bearing witness to centuries of history. The sacred lake reflects the temple's grandeur, its still waters used in daily purification rituals that maintain the delicate balance between the mortal and divine worlds. Within these hallowed walls, where every carved hieroglyph tells a story of power and divine right, Hatshepsut's extraordinary journey began. As the daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose I, she was born into immense privilege, but with clearly defined limitations. The role destined for her was that of great royal wife, a position of considerable influence but ultimately subordinate to the male pharaoh. She was to be the feminine complement to masculine power, the earthly representation of goddesses like Isis and Hathor, who supported but never superseded their male counterparts. Her early life followed the traditional path of a royal daughter. She received an education befitting her status, learning the complex religious rituals, court etiquette, and the art of leadership that would later prove invaluable. The priests of Ammonius, recognizing her exceptional intelligence and charisma, took special interest in her education, unknowingly preparing her for a destiny far greater than anyone could have imagined. Following the death of her father, Thutmose I, Hatshepsut's life took its first expected turn when she married her half-brother, Thutmose II. This marriage, common practice among Egyptian royalty to maintain the purity of the royal bloodline, elevated her to the position of great royal wife. In this role, she fulfilled all the traditional duties, participating in religious ceremonies, supporting her husband's rule, and maintaining the delicate political balance of the royal court. However, destiny had grander designs for Hatshepsut. When Thutmose II died after a relatively short reign, the only male heir, the future Thutmose III, was merely a child, born to a secondary wife. This created a power vacuum that would typically be filled by a regent, usually the great royal wife, until the young prince came of age. But within the grand halls of Karnak, where politics and religion intertwined like the smoke of sacred incense, Hatshepsut began to envision a different path. The very architecture of power that surrounded her, the towering obelisks, the massive pylons, the intricate reliefs depicting the relationship between pharaohs and gods, seemed to speak of possibilities beyond traditional boundaries. The same temple complex that had for centuries legitimized male rule would soon bear witness to an unprecedented transformation, as Hatshepsut began her extraordinary journey from regent to ruler, from great royal wife to pharaoh of Upper and Lower Egypt. In the shadows of Karnak's great columns, where the voices of countless generations of priests had risen in prayer to Pharaoh, a revolution was brewing. Not a violent uprising, but a careful, calculated redefinition of power itself. Hatshepsut, surrounded by the symbols and ceremonies of pharaonic authority, was about to challenge thousands of years of tradition, transforming the very nature of Egyptian kingship in ways that would echo through the centuries. The death of Thutmose II in 1479 BCE created a pivotal moment in Egyptian history that would challenge centuries of pharaonic tradition. In the wake of his passing, the only male heir to the throne, Thutmose III, was merely a child of 2 or 3 years old, born to a secondary wife. This circumstance set the stage for one of the most remarkable political transformations in ancient history. Initially, Hatshepsut assumed the traditional role of regent, a position well documented in Egyptian history when heirs were too young to rule. As great royal wife and daughter of a pharaoh, she was the logical choice to maintain stability until young Thutmose III came of age. However, what happened next was unprecedented in the 3,000 years of Egyptian civilization that had preceded her. Over the course of several years, Hatshepsut orchestrated a brilliant transition from regent to pharaoh. This was not a sudden usurpation but rather a carefully calculated process that demonstrated her exceptional political acumen. She began by assuming more and more responsibilities of kingship, gradually appearing in official functions with increasing authority and regalia associated with the pharaonic office. The masterstroke of Hatshepsut's ascension was her claim to divine parentage. In a narrative that resonated deeply with Egyptian religious beliefs, she proclaimed that Amonis-Ra, the king of gods, had visited her mother, Queen Amos, in the form of Thutmose I. This divine conception story was carefully documented in reliefs at her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, depicting Amonis-Ra approaching her mother, with the god Khnum later fashioning Hatshepsut and her Ka, spirit, on his potter's wheel. This declaration of divine parentage was a stroke of political genius. In Egyptian theology, the pharaoh was not merely a ruler but the living incarnation of Horus, the mediator between gods and mortals. By establishing herself as the daughter of Amonis-Ra, Hatshepsut created a theological foundation for her rule that was difficult to challenge. The story followed established patterns of divine kingship while adapting them to accommodate her unique situation. The support of the powerful priesthood of Ammonius was crucial to her success. These priests, who controlled vast wealth and wielded enormous influence, saw in Hatshepsut a leader who understood the delicate balance between religious and political power. Her intelligence, charisma, and deep respect for religious traditions won their allegiance. The priest's endorsement of her divine origin story gave her claim legitimacy in the eyes of the Egyptian elite and common people alike. Hatshepsut's transformation into pharaoh was reflected in iconography and royal regalia. While early depictions showed her in traditional female dress, she gradually adopted the full royal regalia of a male pharaoh: the false beard, the shendet kilt, and the Nemes headdress. Yet importantly, she did not attempt to disguise her gender in texts, which continued to use feminine pronouns while according her male titles. This duality represented a sophisticated understanding of Egyptian concepts of kingship, where the office itself was inherently masculine, regardless of the biological sex of its occupant. By approximately 1473 BCE, 7 years after becoming regent, Hatshepsut had fully assumed the role of pharaoh. She took the throne name Motker, meaning truth is the soul of Ra, and began one of the most remarkable reigns in Egyptian history. The transition was so complete that she was officially recognized as the 5th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty, with all the powers and divine attributes the position entailed. What makes Hatshepsut's ascension particularly remarkable was its peaceful nature. There are no records of opposition or civil unrest during this unprecedented transformation. Young Thutmose III remained as co-ruler, being groomed for his future role while Hatshepsut effectively managed the affairs of state. This careful balance demonstrated her political wisdom and helped ensure the stability of Egypt during this unique period. The success of Hatshepsut's unlikely ascension lay not just in her bold claim to power, but in her ability to work within existing religious and political frameworks while subtly reshaping them to accommodate her unprecedented position. She proved that effective leadership could transcend gender barriers, setting a precedent that would resonate through the ages, even as it remained unique in ancient Egyptian history. During her remarkable 21-year reign from approximately 1478 to 1458 BCE, Hatshepsut transformed Egypt into a beacon of prosperity, artistic innovation, and architectural brilliance. Unlike many of her predecessors and successors who measured their success through military conquests, she chose a different path to greatness, focusing on economic growth, artistic achievement, and monumental construction projects that would stand the test of time. The crowning achievement of Hatshepsut's peaceful reign was the legendary expedition to the land of Punt. This ambitious trading mission, meticulously recorded on the walls of her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, represents one of the first documented maritime trading expeditions in human history. 5 ships, their hulls built from cedar of Lebanon, set sail down the Red Sea carrying trade goods and the hopes of empire. The expedition to Punt, believed to be in modern-day Somalia or perhaps the Horn of Africa, was an extraordinary demonstration of Egyptian nautical and diplomatic capabilities. The fleet returned laden with treasures that captured the imagination of ancient Egyptians. Mountains of frankincense and myrrh resins, precious woods like ebony, gold dust, ivory, exotic animal skins, live baboons and monkeys, and perhaps most remarkably, 31 living myrrh trees. These trees were ceremonially replanted in the gardens of Hatshepsut's mortuary temple, marking the first recorded attempt at transplanting foreign trees in history. Beyond the Punt expedition, Hatshepsut's reign was characterized by an unprecedented building program that transformed Egypt's sacred landscape. Her greatest architectural achievement was her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, known as Djeser Djeseru, Holy of Holies. This masterpiece of ancient architecture, with its elegant terrace design set against limestone cliffs, represented a revolutionary departure from traditional temple architecture. The temple's harmonious integration with its natural surroundings would influence Egyptian architectural design for generations. Under Hatshepsut's rule, trade flourished not just with Punt but throughout the known world. Egyptian merchants traveled to the land of the gods, modern-day Sudan, Crete, and the Levant, establishing trade networks that brought unprecedented wealth to Egypt. This economic prosperity funded an explosion of artistic creativity, with sculptors and artisans producing works of unprecedented refinement and beauty. The arts flourished during this golden age. Hatshepsut commissioned countless statues, obelisks, and religious monuments, each executed with extraordinary skill. The period saw innovations in sculpture techniques, with artists creating more naturalistic and refined works than ever before. The famous granite obelisks at Karnak Temple, among the tallest ever erected in Egypt, stand as testament to both the technical expertise and artistic vision of her reign. Agriculture also prospered under her administration. The careful management of the Nile's annual flood, combined with improved irrigation techniques, led to abundant harvests. Granaries overflowed, ensuring both domestic prosperity and profitable foreign trade. This agricultural success provided the economic foundation for her ambitious building projects and trading expeditions. Hatshepsut's reign was marked by careful attention to administrative detail and social justice. Records from her time show a well-organized bureaucracy, fair taxation, and careful management of resources. She appointed capable officials based on merit rather than solely on noble birth, creating an efficient administration that served Egypt's interests effectively. Perhaps most remarkably, this period of exceptional peace and prosperity was achieved without sacrificing Egypt's military strength. While Hatshepsut preferred diplomatic and trade relations to warfare, she maintained a strong military, commanded by her co-regent Thutmose III, who would later become known as the Napoleon of ancient Egypt. This balance of soft and hard power ensured Egypt's security while pursuing peaceful prosperity. The cultural flowering during Hatshepsut's reign extended to literature and religious texts as well. New forms of religious expression emerged, and traditional texts were preserved and elaborated upon. The level of literacy among officials increased, leading to more sophisticated administrative practices and cultural developments. Hatshepsut's golden reign represented a high point in ancient Egyptian civilization, demonstrating that great power could be exercised through peace, trade, and cultural achievement rather than through military conquest alone. Her legacy of peaceful prosperity and cultural achievement would influence Egyptian society for generations to come, even after attempts to erase her name from history. The monuments and innovations of her reign continue to inspire wonder and admiration, testament to a golden age when Egypt reached new heights of achievement under the guidance of its most remarkable female pharaoh. The mortuary temple of Hatshepsut at Deir el-Bahri stands as one of the most magnificent architectural achievements of ancient Egypt, a testament to innovation, artistic brilliance, and engineering prowess that continues to captivate visitors 3.5 millennia after its construction. Rising from the desert landscape in a series of elegant terraces, this extraordinary monument represents the pinnacle of New Kingdom architecture and serves as an enduring symbol of Hatshepsut's remarkable reign. Known to the ancient Egyptians as Djeser Djeseru, Holy of Holies, the temple was designed by Hatshepsut's architect, Senenmut, who created a revolutionary design that perfectly harmonized with its natural surroundings. Built into the limestone cliffs of the Theban Mountains, the temple appears to emerge organically from the landscape, its ascending terraces creating a dramatic visual progression toward the sacred precinct carved into the cliff face. The temple's design was unprecedented in Egyptian architecture. Its three broad terraces, connected by long ramps, rise progressively through the natural landscape, each level adding to the temple's grandeur while maintaining perfect proportional harmony. The colonnaded halls on each terrace created spaces of light and shadow that would have been particularly striking during religious ceremonies, when incense smoke would have drifted between the pillars as priests conducted their rituals. Each terrace served specific religious and commemorative functions. The lower terrace featured gardens planted with exotic trees, including the famous myrrh trees brought back from Punt. The second level contained reliefs depicting Hatshepsut's divine birth and her expedition to Punt, while the upper terrace housed the main sanctuary dedicated to Ammonius Ra and included shrines to Hathor and Anubis. The temple walls tell the story of Hatshepsut's reign through exquisitely carved reliefs. These artistic masterpieces not only recorded historical events but also legitimized her rule through religious imagery. The famous divine birth reliefs detail her claimed parentage from the god Ammonius Ra, while others document her coronation, religious festivals, and the celebrated Punt expedition. The artistic quality of these reliefs represents the peak of New Kingdom sculptural achievement. The temple's innovative architecture influenced Egyptian design for generations. Its harmonious integration with the natural landscape, the use of perspective and proportion to create dramatic visual effects, and the sophisticated handling of light and shadow all represented new directions in ancient architecture. The temple's design was so successful that it inspired similar structures well into the Ptolemaic period, nearly 1,000 years later. Perhaps most remarkably, the temple has survived the ravages of time with much of its essential character intact. Despite attempts to erase Hatshepsut's memory after her death, and despite centuries of weathering and partial destruction, the temple remains one of the best-preserved monuments of ancient Egypt. Modern restoration efforts have helped reveal its original grandeur, allowing contemporary visitors to appreciate the full scope of this architectural masterpiece. The temple complex also included innovative engineering features. An intricate system of ramps and terraces managed water flow during rare desert rains, protecting the structure from flash floods. The placement of the temple was carefully calculated to align with the solar cycle and important celestial events, demonstrating the sophisticated astronomical knowledge of ancient Egyptian architects. Beyond its architectural significance, Deir el-Bahri serves as a powerful symbol of Hatshepsut's reign. The temple's grandeur and innovation reflect the prosperity and cultural achievements of her era, while its harmonious design mirrors her preference for peaceful development over military conquest. The careful integration of traditional religious elements with architectural innovation parallels her own political balancing act as a female pharaoh working within male-dominated traditions. Today, Hatshepsut's mortuary temple remains one of the most visited and studied monuments in Egypt. Its endurance through millennia stands as a testament to the vision of an extraordinary ruler who understood that true legacy is measured not just in military victories or political achievements, but in the creation of beauty that transcends time. The temple at Deir el-Bahri continues to inspire wonder and admiration, a lasting monument to one of history's most remarkable leaders and the golden age she created. The final chapter of Hatshepsut's remarkable reign remains one of ancient Egypt's most intriguing mysteries. The transition from her rule to that of Thutmose III ignited centuries of scholarly debate and continues to challenge our understanding of ancient Egyptian politics and succession practices. Archaeological evidence indicates that Hatshepsut's death occurred around 1458 BCE, likely in her early 50s. The scientific analysis of her mummy, definitively identified in 2007 through DNA testing and detailed forensic examination, revealed fascinating details about her final days. The investigation suggested that she suffered from several health conditions, including diabetes and bone cancer. However, the most compelling evidence points to a severe dental infection as the probable cause of death. An abscess, discovered in her jaw, likely developed into a life-threatening infection in an era before antibiotics, potentially spreading to her bloodstream and leading to fatal complications. The immediate aftermath of her death presents historians with a puzzling scenario. Initially, Thutmose III's treatment of his stepmother's memory appeared respectful. However, approximately 20 years into his sole reign, a systematic campaign began to remove Hatshepsut's royal imagery from monuments throughout Egypt. Her name was chiseled away from temple walls, her statues were removed and often destroyed, and her cartouches were replaced with those of her father Thutmose I or her husband Thutmose II. Traditional interpretations viewed these actions as evidence of a vengeful successor, erasing the memory of a woman who had potentially usurped his rightful place on the throne. However, modern scholarship suggests a more nuanced explanation. The timing of the erasure, occurring decades after Hatshepsut's death, indicates this was likely a calculated political move rather than an act of personal revenge. Several theories attempt to explain this delayed systematic removal. One compelling interpretation suggests that Thutmose III, facing challenges to his own legitimacy later in his reign, sought to streamline the official record of succession. By removing Hatshepsut's reign from visible history, he could present a direct line of male pharaohs from Thutmose I to himself, reinforcing traditional concepts of kingship and succession. Interestingly, the erasure was not complete. Many images of Hatshepsut were simply modified rather than destroyed, and some remained untouched in less accessible locations. The selective nature of the removal suggests a political rather than personal motivation. Moreover, recent archaeological evidence indicates that some of Hatshepsut's closest officials continue to serve under Thutmose III, suggesting a relatively smooth transition of power rather than a hostile takeover. The discovery of Hatshepsut's mummy in KV60, a small, undecorated tomb in the Valley of the Kings, adds another layer to the mystery. The modest nature of her final resting place contrasts sharply with the grandeur of her reign. Some scholars suggest her body may have been moved there during the Amarna period, when many royal mummies were relocated to protect them from tomb robbers. The physical examination of her mummy revealed other intriguing details. She was a relatively small woman, about 5 feet tall, who suffered from obesity and various health conditions common to the royal family, including dental problems and what appears to be genetic bone cancer. These findings humanize this extraordinary ruler, showing that despite her divine pretensions, she faced very mortal challenges. Perhaps most fascinating is the evidence suggesting that Thutmose III maintained and even completed some of Hatshepsut's construction projects after her death. This includes work on her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, indicating that despite the later removal of her images, there was initially a period of respect for her legacy. The complex relationship between Hatshepsut and Thutmose III continues to generate scholarly debate. Rather than a simple tale of usurpation and revenge, their story appears to be one of political pragmatism, changing definitions of legitimate rule, and the challenges of maintaining power in ancient Egypt. The end of Hatshepsut's reign reminds us that historical truth is often more complex than it first appears. While the physical traces of her rule may have been partially erased, her impact on Egyptian history was indelible. The mystery of her end serves not to diminish her achievements but rather to highlight the complexities of power, succession, and legacy in the ancient world. Her story continues to fascinate scholars and enthusiasts alike, proving that sometimes the most compelling historical narratives are those that leave us with questions as well as answers. The legacy of Hatshepsut extends far beyond the magnificent monuments she built along the Nile. Her reign, spanning more than 2 decades during Egypt's Golden Age, established precedents and challenged assumptions that continue to resonate through the corridors of time, offering profound insights into leadership, gender dynamics, and the exercise of power. Perhaps Hatshepsut's most significant contribution was demonstrating that effective governance transcends gender boundaries. In an era when female rulers were virtually unknown in the ancient world, she proved that a woman could not only assume supreme power but could also usher in a period of unprecedented prosperity and cultural achievement. Her reign was marked by diplomatic finesse rather than military conquest, showing that power could be exercised through trade, architecture, and cultural exchange as effectively as through warfare. The economic prosperity that characterized her rule offers valuable lessons in strategic leadership. Her famous trading expedition to Punt exemplified the benefits of peaceful commerce over military expansion. By establishing new trade routes and diplomatic relationships, she enhanced Egypt's wealth and influence without the costly toll of warfare. This approach to international relations was remarkably sophisticated for its time and demonstrates the effectiveness of soft power in achieving national objectives. Hatshepsut's architectural program revolutionized Egyptian building traditions. Her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri introduced innovative design elements that would influence Egyptian architecture for generations. The temple's harmonious integration with its natural surroundings and its elegant terrace design represented a new approach to sacred architecture that balanced grandeur with aesthetic sensitivity. These architectural innovations reflect a leader who understood that monuments serve not just as displays of power but as expressions of cultural and spiritual aspirations. In the realm of political imagery and propaganda, Hatshepsut's reign offers fascinating insights into how authority can be legitimized through symbolic representation. Her decision to adopt male regalia while maintaining her identity as a woman demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of the relationship between symbolic power and actual governance. Rather than simply imitating male rulers, she created a new iconographic language that acknowledged tradition while adapting it to unprecedented circumstances. The religious aspects of her reign reveal how spiritual authority can be used to legitimize political power. By claiming divine parentage and maintaining strong relationships with the priesthood, Hatshepsut showed how religious institutions could be engaged to support political innovation. Her careful balance of traditional religious observance with political necessity provides lessons in how societies can accommodate change while maintaining cultural continuity. In the sphere of gender politics, Hatshepsut's reign continues to provoke discussion about the nature of female leadership. She demonstrated that women could exercise power without sacrificing their feminine identity, even while adopting traditionally masculine symbols of authority. Her approach to power challenges simplistic notions about gender and leadership, suggesting that effective governance depends more on individual capability than on gender identity. The administrative success of her reign highlights the importance of selecting capable advisors and building effective bureaucracies. Her choice of talented officials like Senenmut, who served as both architect and administrator, shows how effective delegation and merit-based appointment can strengthen governance. The stability and prosperity of her reign suggest that she was not just a figurehead but an active and capable administrator. The attempted erasure of Hatshepsut's memory after her death, far from diminishing her legacy, raises important questions about historical memory and political legitimacy. The fact that her achievements survived despite systematic attempts to remove her from official records demonstrates the resilience of historical truth and the limitations of political censorship. Modern scholarship continues to uncover new aspects of Hatshepsut's reign, enriching our understanding of both ancient Egyptian society and the universal challenges of leadership. Recent archaeological discoveries, including the identification of her mummy and new interpretations of contemporary documents, have helped create a more nuanced picture of her rule and its historical context. Hatshepsut's legacy resonates particularly strongly in contemporary discussions about female leadership and the persistence of gender barriers in positions of authority. Her success in transcending the limitations imposed by her gender while maintaining effective governance offers inspiration and insights for modern leaders facing similar challenges. In the end, Hatshepsut's most enduring impact may be in demonstrating that exceptional leadership knows no gender, that innovation can coexist with tradition, and that power exercised wisely can create lasting benefits for society. Her reign stands as a testament to the possibility of breaking through established boundaries while maintaining and even enhancing the greatness of a civilization. In an age still grappling with questions of gender equality and leadership, Hatshepsut's example continues to offer valuable lessons and inspiration. The story of Hatshepsut stands as a timeless testament to the transformative power of visionary leadership and the enduring impact one individual can have on the course of history. Her reign, spanning more than 2 decades during Egypt's New Kingdom period, exemplifies how innovation and tradition can coexist to create periods of extraordinary achievement and lasting cultural significance. Hatshepsut's legacy transcends the conventional narratives of ancient Egyptian kingship. She was not merely a woman who became pharaoh. She was a ruler who fundamentally redefined what leadership could achieve. Under her guidance, Egypt experienced an unprecedented period of peace and prosperity, marked by architectural marvels, diplomatic triumphs, and commercial innovations that would influence Egyptian society for generations to come. The sophistication of her reign is reflected in every aspect of her governance. Her diplomatic initiatives expanded Egypt's influence through trade rather than conquest, establishing new commercial networks that enriched Egyptian society both materially and culturally. The famous expedition to Punt represents not just a trading venture but a bold vision of how nations could interact for mutual benefit, setting a precedent for international relations that resonates even in modern times. Her architectural legacy, particularly the magnificent mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, demonstrates how leadership can create lasting monuments that transcend their original purpose to become symbols of human achievement. The innovative design of her temple, with its harmonious integration into the natural landscape, reveals an aesthetic sensibility that balanced grandeur with grace, power with beauty. Perhaps most significantly, Hatshepsut's reign demonstrates that effective leadership transcends gender boundaries. She succeeded not by merely adopting male characteristics but by creating her own unique approach to leadership that combined traditional pharaonic authority with innovative governance. Her ability to maintain power and bring prosperity to Egypt while navigating the complex political and religious expectations of her time reveals a remarkable political acumen that deserves study and admiration. The attempted erasure of her legacy after her death, rather than diminishing her importance, serves to highlight the enduring nature of true achievement. Despite the systematic removal of her image from monuments and records, the impact of her reign proved indelible. The prosperity she brought to Egypt, the monuments she built, and the precedents she established survived all attempts at obliteration, demonstrating that genuine accomplishment transcends political manipulation. As we continue to grapple with questions of leadership, gender equality, and the exercise of power in our own time, Hatshepsut's reign offers valuable insights and inspiration. She showed that leadership is not about conforming to predetermined roles but about having the vision to see beyond conventional limitations and the courage to pursue bold initiatives for the benefit of society. In the grand narrative of human history, Hatshepsut stands as a reminder that greatness knows no gender, that true leadership transcends social constraints, and that the most effective rulers are those who can balance respect for tradition with the courage to innovate. Her reign was not just a historical anomaly but a shining example of how exceptional leadership can create periods of extraordinary achievement and lasting cultural significance. The enduring fascination with Hatshepsut's story reflects its continuing relevance to contemporary discussions about power, gender, and leadership. As we face our own challenges of governance and social progress, her example reminds us that the most effective leaders are those who can transcend the limitations of their time while remaining true to the fundamental principles of wise and beneficial rule. In the final analysis, Hatshepsut's greatest legacy may be in demonstrating that leadership at its best is not about maintaining power for its own sake but about using authority to create lasting benefits for society. Her reign stands as an eternal testament to the possibility of breaking through established boundaries while maintaining and even enhancing the greatness of a civilization. In this way, she continues to inspire and inform our understanding of leadership, achievement, and the potential for individual vision to shape the course of history.